Do you know, I was lucky enough to meet Sir Bobby Robson several times. I sat down and spent an hour talking to him just over a year ago. He was one of those people who loved football. And tonight, all of the people in Ipswich who love football have come here to Portman Road to pay their respects to him. Behind me, we have two policemen laying a wreath. Superintendent John Everett from Suffolk Police is laying the wreath on behalf of Suffolk Police. Now, he started here as a PC, working on match day in 1981, and he says this is in memory of a gentleman who was in charge of this club through some of their best days. We've been out on the streets today to see what the people of Ipswich remember best about Sir Bobby Robson.
From the moment the news broke mid-morning, fans found their way to Portman Road, to the statue of Sir Bobby, to say goodbye. Office workers spent their lunch breaks around an evolving shrine. Postmen finished their rounds and came here to deliver their respects. Fans just wanted to be together in blue, and this was the only place to be.
It's a sad day for football, all over the world, I think, not just us, but also Newcastle as well, and England itself.
I was too young. I didn't see him in his heyday here, but I think the history, the legacy that he left here has touched even our generation, the young generation. History, legacy never dies.
That's just such a genuine bloke, a gentleman, you know, a pure legend to us and the town. He'll never be forgotten, you know, I really love him. He's a legend.
By mid-afternoon, a book of condolence was opened and fans queued up to write down their thoughts, thank yous for 13 years of blissful memories. Those who worked with him also just had to be here today. David Rose was club secretary at Ipswich during the Robson years.
I was in the garden this morning and somebody called out to me and I heard the news, and it came a bit of a shock, really, a bit of a blow, I must say.
The passing of Bobby Robson knocked everyone back at the club today. The fact they knew it would happen sooner or later didn't soften the blow. Everyone working at the club today, including manager Roy Keane, came out en masse to say a silent thank you and goodbye to the town's favourite son. Sean Peel, BBC Look East.
You know, somehow it seems appropriate that Ipswich Town are playing at home tonight against a team from Spain, and so lots of people are coming here to support the club. They're expecting a crowd of about 10,000, and already if we look round the statue of Sir Bobby behind me, you can see all of the flowers and all of the scarves laid out in memory of him. Let's look back now at his remarkable career.
In a sport awash with big personalities and big names, Sir Bobby Robson stood out, head and shoulders. He was universally respected and revered. He was a true giant of the game, gifted and gutsy to the end. He turned to football management after a fine playing career, but within months in charge at Fulham, he was sacked. He came to Ipswich in 1969, a risk, a rookie, and those early days were hardly the stuff of dreams.
The first impressions were good ones, you know, and then when he sort of left the dressing room, then obviously there was a lot of chit-chat going on. You know, maybe the senior players knew more about him than what I did, but certainly first impressions were fine, you know, he looked the part.
I had a brush with a couple of these lads. They were good players, but they were tough hombres. I put the team sheet up, left them out of the team, and they just, you know, smashed it in my face. Rubbed it in my face. Like, that's what we think of you now.
There were fisticuffs, you know, there were fights in this dressing room.
It wasn't very pleasant, and I'm not proud of it, but I stood my ground.
He settled it. It made it very difficult for me as well afterwards, because he then turned to me at 21 years of age and offered me the captaincy.
Robson out, Robson out.
Out and a rebound and out and a rebound. And let's do a dozen.
Bobby got the call in the morning, you know, pop and see the chairman, would you? So he thought, well, this is the end of it. And he went down, and John actually apologised to him about the behaviour of the crowd and said, look, you're doing fine. You carry on what you're doing. So the day he thought he might be getting the order of the boot, he got a vote of confidence, and from there we moved on.
You know, he was out there every day on the training ground, which I know now managers don't do that all the time. You know, they often delegate that side of it. He was very thorough, you know, with regards to public relations and whatever the board required him to do. You know, he was a workaholic, he really was.
They don't particularly want to eat too much before the match. So tea, toast and jam, and there are 17 people
He was dedicated, driven, destined for great things, and in 1978 the breakthrough moment against Arsenal in the FA Cup final.
Inwardly we knew that we had a good side and that we could win.
Osborne 1-0. And Ipswich win the cup for the first time in their history. A moment to treasure for Bobby Robson and the East Anglian fans, and they thoroughly deserve it.
Thank you very much for the civic reception.
We won very well in the end. It was one of the greatest days in my life.
But Robson didn't rest. He reshaped the team and went on to win the UEFA Cup too. By now he was a wanted man, and England came calling.
What do you think you'll do?
Oh, I think I'll stay.
But ultimately the job was too good to resist. He was gone, but never forgotten. And even after 8 years with England, when he went on to manage clubs at home and abroad with huge success, the emotional ties with Ipswich remain strong.
I'm flattered. I'm a little bit embarrassed, seriously.
They gave him a statue, the freedom of the town. They made him president at Portman Road.
When you think about Bobby, in a way, he's a local boy, isn't he?
What Bobby Robson has achieved over the last 30 years is absolutely fantastic. I don't think it'll ever be equalled, really.
So how are you?
And the man who battled cancer so many times always cared about others locked in a similar struggle, and never forgot the medical team in Ipswich who helped him.
People here saved my life, and if through me, you know, I can help other people to be diagnosed and dealt with quickly, that's the greatest thrill in my life.
Sir Bobby will rightly be remembered for everything he achieved in football, but it was his compassion and dignity, and most of all his courage, which set him apart. Kevin Birch, BBC Look East.
Well, as you can see, I'm joined by two Ipswich footballers, Kevin Beattie and Roger Osborne, both who played their part. Can I just say, when I spoke to him last year, the two players I think that he was most fond of here were you two. Were you aware of that at the time?
Well, I knew he was fond of Roger, obviously, because he scored the winner in the cup final. But and he called his dog after.
Yeah.
After yourself, didn't he, Roger?
Yeah. I think he was fond of me because he paid me the least, I think.
No, the boss obviously was a great man, and you know, the lads are, you know, still to this day ribbing me because I used to be his diamond. He's got me his diamond, and you know, I had so much stick, and I still get it from, you know, this day on.
Roger, you both still call him the boss.
Yeah, I've never ever called him anything else. I mean, you know, just the way it is, I suppose, really.
What was special about him for you as a manager?
Well, he was a very nice person, first and foremost, really. I mean, absolutely football mad, workaholic, and I appreciated that, really, because I always worked hard at my game, and he obviously recognised that, and I think that's why he brought me into the club, I think.
And how did he get... What strikes me about the team that he had around him, they were good men as well as good footballers.
Well, the thing was, the boss could make, shall I say, an average player into a good player, and a good player into an even better player. He had that ability. You know, it was uncanny, really. But his man management, as Roger says, it was really uncanny because, you know, he put his arm on your shoulder and he'd say, look, son, you know, I want you to do this and do that. I can remember one great game against Barcelona, and Roger had to mark the great Johan Cruyff. Now, the boss said, like, stick with him. Right, wherever you go, we're beating 3-0 down here. Right, if Johan Cruyff had to go to the toilet, Roger would have followed him. He was taking the boss's advice.
He was a great man, and he'll be sadly missed by everybody who loves football.
Certainly right.
Both of you, thank you very much for coming and being with us here tonight. If you want to see more about this and people's memories, you can look on the BBC Suffolk website, bbc.co.uk/Suffolk. We'll be back here a little later in the programme, but now back to Amelia.